Nigerians doing a lot for their fellow countrymen and women in need. Let's welcome Peter Eguda. He is Program Manager, Civil Society Coalition for Poverty Eradication, CISCOPE, an organization that has been involved in providing humanitarian aid and assistance to needy Nigerians, especially internally displaced, mostly in northeast of Nigeria. Welcome to Matters Arising.
Thank you very much.
You've been there, you've monitored the situation. What is your takeout from there?
Well, thank you, Amechi. The issue is so huge and pathetic, and especially when you look at the fact that we are a population of 170 million, and we are among the most 7 top oil-producing country in the world. What that means is that we're supposed to know how to take care of our issues. But humanitarian crisis being caused by human-induced factor most times are very, very difficult to manage. The entire Northeast, as we speak, has been so destabilized. Lives have been lost. Means of livelihood have been distorted. People's dignity have been degraded to a level where they don't even know if they're still human beings, if they still exist in this world. Women have been adopted. Children witness the killing of their parents, loved ones. So it's a huge issue, a whole range of issues that you cannot just take on in one swipe. So, but like the UN resident coordinator just said, there are positive stories though, but again, the challenges are so enormous that there's need for everybody to really play his or her own part to ensure that we nip this in the bud. Of
course, access to these people, access to provide aid is one major challenge.
Yeah, it's in fact, I just came in from Adamawa State yesterday, and we've been in the field working since 2014, February precisely, in Michika local government in Adamawa State. And from my experience and my fellow colleagues in the team, and this is not just about INGOs or NGOs, everybody who is responding in the humanitarian crisis in the Northeast will tell you that access to aid by these people who are affected is also a challenge. I'll give you an instance. The casualties that we've had, apart from the human casualties, there are other infrastructures that have been destabilized, destroyed. One of such a vital infrastructure that is key to human development is access to road. The bridges linking communities from one community to another community have been totally destroyed.
And some of the people in these communities are being forced to remote areas because of insurgents activity. So
they are forced, and some have even gone up to live on mountains. They've not come down. Some cannot even run out of the place because as at the time the insurgents came, they were too old, they were too sick to move. They even died as a result, not even because the insurgents, I mean the terrorists or whoever killed them, but because of the shock and the pains. The fact that they were even hungry at some point, nobody could reach to them. So now that the military has, to some extent, degraded the insurgents and moved them from their area of operation, Sambisa, the communities they've all captured, what we are witnessing in the field now is that some of these areas that infrastructures have been, whose infrastructures have been destroyed, aid cannot still reach them. I speak particularly for Michika and Madagali in Adamawa State, for instance. You cannot even drive into a vehicle. You have to go around Nubi. And some of the aid agencies cannot even go because it's still a security threat. And
sometimes there are landmines.
Yes, that has not been confirmed adequately, but again, official reports suggest that most times for those of us who work in the field, we are told not to go to some areas because it has not been cleared.
So go ahead, those in need of aid.
Yes, and you know, prior to the election, let's say 3 weeks to the election, if you remember when the former administration said Nigerians should give them 2 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Yes, they did a lot of work. They drove away the insurgents from various areas that was captured. Nubi, for instance, was taken back from insurgents. Michika and other locations in Adamawa State, Askira, Uba, Bazan, and co. But people started moving back after the election because the farming season was coming, and most of them are farmers. We shouldn't dispute that because in Nigeria, over 60% of the population of this country who are living in the rural communities are agro-based. They produce crops and the rest. So on their own volition, they left. They left back to their community, and they went back there to meet nothing as we speak. The houses have been destabilized.
No infrastructure, no basic economic foundation.
I can tell you, in the entire 7 local governments in Adamawa State that was affected, I think maybe Hong Song and Gire are the ones that we can say are functioning to some extent, not even maximally. But places like Michika, Madagali, I can tell you, no hospital, no roads, no water, no school, no markets. So how can anyone survive in that kind of location? And because of the insurgent activities for over 1 year, schools were closed down. So what that means is that access to education for children was also a challenge, and access to food, access to basic necessities of life and the rest. So we've not even, if we even start talking about issues around protection, gender-based violence, and so many issues. And that's why for us, what we try to do is to prioritize and look at what we think that people need to survive. Because if humanitarian action in the first instance is to save life and reduce suffering.
Your organization, CISCOPE, with some other international organizations such as Oxfam, of course, the Nigerian aid agency, NEMA, have been working in that area.
Yeah.
How do you measure and evaluate the level of intervention so far?
Well, at that level, I really have to say coordination is an issue. And because we coordinate, not us though, NEMA, SEMA, and UN OCHA, UN Office of Coordination for Humanitarian Affairs. And I could remember in 2014, precisely in March, April and May, when we really started our intervention around Mubi axis. We all sat down and agreed that for us to really work, because what you are bringing cannot even, it's just like a tip of the iceberg. It cannot even go anywhere.
A drop of water.
Yes, it's nothing. Because we are talking of an entire location whose population is even more than some countries in the Western world. So, and you know, in the northeastern part of this country, we have what we call population rate is high, birth rate is high, poverty indices is very, very high there and the rest. So when you go there, you find a household having 14, 20, 30 dependents. And it's not only common to Northeast, even in some southern part of the country where people practice polygamy and the rest. So the issues are so huge. But in terms of measuring impact, it is through our coordination meetings that we exactly know who does what, where and how, and what kind of funding is available for that person to do what he or she is supposed to do. So organizations at that level, we interrelate, we communicate through the system that has been put in place in Adamawa State through NEMA, SEMA, and the UN OCHA. Every other organizations fall into that coordination forum along the sector of their expertise. So for us, we partner with Oxfam. Oxfam has done tremendously since the activities of these insurgents began in Nigeria. Even in the flood days, they responded in Kogi State. They supported some communities there. And when this issue started in the Northeast, they were also one of the first INGOs who were on ground, together with another organization called International Rescue Committee. They were all on ground to support people who were affected. But
what of our own NEMA, National Emergency Management?
NEMA has been doing a lot. And I want to say this with all sense of modesty, because there are lots of responsibility placed on NEMA. And NEMA is an agency at the national level. Yes, everybody wants to see NEMA when flood comes, when drought happens, when there's
rain carries some roof.
But you forgot that we are a population of 170 million, like I said, 774 local governments, 36 states, including FCT Abuja. So how can NEMA be in every community in this country? How can NEMA be in the villages? And that is where coordination and let everybody play a part or play a role, have a role to play.
Now that you're highlighting the need for other Nigerians, other organizations to join in this humanitarian efforts, because the tax indeed is huge.
It's huge.
What kind of intervention, what scope, and where do you expect it to come?
For instance, let's talk one of the major issues, funding. It's very easy in Nigeria when you want to give money to give to only your mosque and your church. Or he's my church member, the pastor said I should give this, or the imam said I should do this or do that, or it's from my community. Nigerians have not still developed to the point where people who are affected by a crisis in one form or the other, and those who are not affected, should be supported. So if I sit in Lagos, for instance, and I hear about Adamawa, Borno, and the rest, I just, an average Nigerian will say, no concern me. It's none of my business. Right? That's what an average Nigerian will say. But some of this aid money that comes into the country, from foreign countries are actually being donated by individuals, not even by the government sometimes. So it is individuals that put their hands in pocket. So, and to achieve that in Nigeria, one of the key things we have to start doing is to have the structures in place. So, like I said, NEMA is there, yes, it's charged with that responsibility. NEMA is supposed to be working with SEMA, SEMA is supposed to be working with the LEMAs. Likewise, for us in the NGO forum, in the NGO sector, we have what we call the CBOs, community-based organizations, whose mandate and area of operation is at the community level. We have those who operate at the state and at the national level, okay? And we have the INGOs who are foreigners to our country, who get the funds from their donors and they come to this country and work with NGOs like us. So there should be that synergy, there should be that flow. But what we are seeing in the field is that quite a number of times, NEMA is well equipped and the SEMAs in the states are not equipped. The state government don't fund them properly. They don't have equipment. They don't have the right kind of personnel and expertise. And bearing in mind also that in Nigeria, humanitarian issues are new to us. In 2012 was when we actually witnessed what is called humanitarian response. And
with the number of internally displaced persons rising from about 300,000 to about 3 million.
Yes, and it caught everybody on ours, even the UN system then, because people were
the aid agency, the response agency at the states are still weak and underfunded.
Yes, they are. They are underfunded, they are weak, and on top of it, there's lack of capacity and expertise. And these are areas where we should be looking at to develop people as first respondents to respond immediately when there are issues, and also send out the kind of message that people should know, because it's not just to go there, because even you as a first responder, most times you are also vulnerable. So people should be equipped to know what they should do at the community level. And also not forget the faith-based organizations. And I think we should commend them, because when you look at what the JNIs, the Jamaat Nasir Islam is doing in the Northeast, you look at what another organization called Jibris, you also look at what organizations like the Catholic Church through Caritas and JDPC, I mean, Form 1, the faith-based they've done tremendously well, because if you go to some communities, it is the faith-based that are actually doing what they are supposed to do, not even the government. So, and we should not run away from this fact. Yes, you may hear it on the news that the government has done this, they've done that, but have we reached the most needy, the most vulnerable, which are the people we're trying to support? So I always give this example that if there's a crisis in this room right now, we are all going to be affected differently. So the issue is that if we are affected differently, what that means is some may come out alive, some may not come out alive, some might come out alive.
There's need for needs assessment.
And in doing your needs assessment, you have to add what we call vulnerability assessment to know who are the most affected. So it is at that point that we start looking at the most vulnerable. And we have our criteria when we put those things. It's not just going to the field and say, oh, you are from Borno, come here. And that's why you see stampede sometimes, when you don't do your vulnerability and needs assessment properly. In the distribution of relief in whatever form. So because everybody is hungry, yes, we know everybody is hungry. Everybody in the Northeast is affected, but they're affected differently and not at the same quantum.
For instance, in distribution of food and water, women, the elderly and children should be given.
Yes, we give priority to women, elderly, according to vulnerability. Okay, let's take for instance, if we have to give what we call food assistance, if we have to do what we call a wash on NFI, non-food items or shelter kits, we look at indices. For instance, we want to know the household number. We want to know who is the head of the household. We want to know how many children are in that household. For instance, how many children do we have below the age of 5, from 1 to 5? How many pregnant women do we have in such household? How many lactating women are there? Because some men will marry 3 wives or 4 wives. So how many of them are lactating or pregnant? Because these are women who, for the fact that she's pregnant, she's vulnerable. She needs extra care. So this information, you tease them out and you analyze before you even go to the field. And also you have to also do what we call rapid assessment to also know, when you do a rapid assessment, you do your in-depth assessment to know where you
are. So for a Nigerian, a citizen now who has some sympathy for an IDP and is wishing to visit an IDP camp anywhere in any part of the country, what steps should the person, what should the person go with?
Well, in fact, there's no, it depends on where we are going to. Let me use Adamawa State, where we have our operational base and Gombe with Meduguri. If you have to bring any item, because if you restrict it, it means the person will not bring what he has. And in actual sense, the IDP they want all
everything.
They want everything.
So anything,
but again, you hand it over to the professionals who know what is life, what is it that they need at that particular time that will save their life. We're not talking of luxury anymore. We're talking of an emergency basic amenities that they need to survive.
The president has been speaking of the need to take back these IDPs back to their places, to resettle them, especially from 2006. But we know that why are their communities, they are going to meet some brick walls, some hurdles and challenges. Of course, some will return to see no houses, no economic trees, no farmland, no basic structure to help them to reignite and restart their life.
Yes, I know the government is toeing along that line, which is good, because they cannot remain IDPs forever. At some point, they must go back home. We should also, let me say it on this medium, that we should not forget, we should not wish away or throw away the resilience of the Nigerian people who are affected in this community. I'll give you an example with Adamawa State again. When this issue happened, and even though Boko Haram they were still there, they went back and they said they are farmers. They cannot stay in the camp while farming season is bypassing them. They've missed the first one, and they cannot miss it. A lot of them went back. So I think that position by Mr. President is something that we should all support, because at the end of the day, that is where they come from.
It lessens the burden.
It lessens the burden on every other person. And if anybody chooses to stay anywhere, yes, he's a Nigerian. He has the right. The Constitution guarantees his or her right to stay anywhere, any place they want to stay. So the president, I think that is a very good line we should throw, because when they go back there, we start what we call recovery process. They start those who have lost their seat, those who have lost their livelihood. We start. It's a slow process, and it will require a whole lot of expertise, a whole lot of support, and it's not something that will end in a year. It's something that must continue. But our fear is that it should not be a platform for people to start siphoning public funds, because most times when government come up with ideas or support, it's around funding, and you find so many committees around such funds. At the end of the day, it does not get to the real people that should get it. Yes.
Okay, Peter Guda is of the Civil Society Coalition for Poverty Eradication, a project manager there, does CISCOPE. He has been working with different humanitarian agencies, especially in northeast Nigeria, where we have millions of internally displaced persons. And we have been talking about the need to reach out to these Nigerians, provide support as the world marks the World Humanitarian Day. 19th of August every year is this date set aside by the UN for that purpose. Thank you so much for providing insights into what hardships these Nigerians are facing in that remote part of the country.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's the program for today. Tomorrow we'll return with another edition. Thanks for being part of it. My name is